In this demo, we're going to take a look at how we can script out our code manually and store it in a version control system. Now, I've got a database here, but before I script out all of my code, I need a place to put it. So I've got a folder here on my local drive, on my E drive, under my GitHub directory called DevOps for Databases. This is where I want to store all the code. So first, let's create a repository. Now I'm going to show you how to do this in Git. It's very similar in SVN or any other system you use, but for Git, I'll use the git init command, and I'll actually create a Git directory now. This will now be a version control system. If I look at the status, we'll see that there's nothing there. Nothing's been added, so we're fine. Let's now script out our code. If I right-click a database, then I go to Tasks, you'll see I have this Generate Scripts item. If I select that, I'll now get a wizard. The first thing is an introductory screen. Now I can choose my objects, which by default we script the entire database, which is what we'll do. Then we go to the scripting options. Now we want to script to a specific location, but we don't want a single file. We want a file per object. And now we'll pick that file that we used. So that's in GitHub, and it is DevOps for Databases. I have the choice of what my encoding. I'm just going to leave it as Unicode, and I certainly could do this in a new script window if I wanted to. But if I was to do this programmatically with the SMO options, I would typically script it back to this folder every time. So let's go ahead and do that. We see our summary, and we'll let that script. There's an SMO interface that looks at every object inside of your SQL Server database, and it will generate the SQL code needed to actually produce that object. If I was working in MySQL or Postgres or Oracle, there are other options I can do that. In SQL Server, this is the easiest way to do that. Once I've done that, if I look at my folder, you'll see that I've got all of my objects listed. The naming convention is schema and the object name and then the type. So you'll see I've got all these items. And if I look at my Git status now, we'll see that I've added a number of items that are all new. To commit these, I would do a git add, and I'll just do an all and git commit with a commit message. And now everything would be committed to my database. If I were to look at my Git status now, everything would be correct. Now I could certainly add a remote and push this out to another folder, or I could copy this whole Git directory to somebody else's machine if I needed to, or give them access to a share. But this is an easy way for me to get all of my code into a version control system.